I'm live. 3 o'clock in the morning, and I can't sleep. I lay down around midnight. The reason I can't sleep, I've done some pretty incredible things. I've done some pretty incredible things. And I always say I'm the last person to toot my own. I'm very humble. I'm very grateful just to be alive. I was a hopeless, homeless, junkie, drug addict in the streets of New York. And here I am today, stronger and better than I've ever been in my entire life. So, I'm super grateful. I'm super humble. And now, because of what I've done, right? Because of what I've done, what I've achieved, man, I'm about to do something. And I'm gonna do it. And it's so incredible that I can't even believe it. And it takes precedence over everything else that's going on right now. The fact that my whole life I've been insecure, right? But I come from a place, a very tough neighborhood. I've watched people before any of the bullshit started. Excuse my language. I have to try to get better with that. Before any of the stuff, the bad things that happened in my life started, I grew up. It was a simple life. I was a young kid. I came out of my house. There was 100 other young kids that lived in my neighborhood on my block. As I got to go off to other blocks, I would meet the other kids. Hey, how you doing? What's your name? I'm talking about 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, forming friendships, going to school, kindergarten, first grade, second grade. They lived in the same neighborhood. It was a community of Italians and Irish and German and Jewish and white people. It is what it is. I didn't make it that way. I just grew up into it. And ego, right? Who's the best? Who has the nicest things? Who's got the best girlfriend? Who's got the nicest clothes on? Who got jewelry because their parents do better than my parents were struggling. My mom was a single mother raising 3 kids on welfare. My father was a painter in the neighborhood, a humble painter. Didn't make a lot of money. They were divorced. But I had friends with parents who owned houses. We rented. I went to it where like it was so mixed where like I was going to the supermarket with food stamps and the same people next door were millionaires. How crazy is that? So I grew up insecure because I grew up in an environment where it was all about who was the best, and I didn't have much of anything. And I've learned later on that even the drugs, when I got older, and I made the decision to try the drug because I wouldn't do it at first, all out of insecurity. you know, because where I am now, so secure, so, I know who I am. I don't need to feel drunk. I don't need to feel high. I don't want to. It doesn't occur to me anymore. But for 20 years, when I was insecure and I needed to be high, I couldn't stop because I just couldn't stand how I felt normal. So it's crazy. And in the midst of all of that, when I was young, I wanted to be a photographer. And where I come from, that's like a nobody wants to be a photographer around here. You know, as far as I knew, I was the only one out of hundreds and hundreds of kids. I'm the only kid walking around with a camera, a professional camera. And I went to work at 18 years old. I had a good job in the union, and I bought myself a professional camera. It was the first thing I ever acquired that was ever really like a professional piece of equipment. And I didn't know how to use it. All these buttons on it, different things. I had to go to school to learn about photography. I was reading magazines. Back then, this is in 1992, 93, and 94. There wasn't even internet yet. I had photographic magazine, and these are things that I used to learn. And yeah, after I finished building my system, I had 5 lenses. My 80 to 200 millimeter 2.8 lens was like $1,800. 50 millimeter, which is what the eye sees. Like your eyes are like lenses, your eyeballs, they're like camera lenses. They have like when your pupils dilate because there's too much light, and then when there's not enough light, it'll open up and it'll be able to see. That's what allows you to see in the dark. And so the camera lenses, it goes off of like what your eye does. It does the same thing your eyeball does. When you open up the camera lens from the inside, there's a ring, and it'll open up the aperture when you're in low light situations. And then when it's very bright, you'll want to stop down the lens so it doesn't flood it with so much, because too much light on the film will overexpose it, and you won't get a good image. It'll just be blurry, bright. So everything's got to be proper exposure, and that's the same thing with the light that comes into your eyeballs, into your brain, and what you see. If you look up at the sun, you can't see nothing. It's too bright. No matter how much your eye dilates or opens up or whatever. And in the end, the camera system was about $10,000. Between all my lenses, the flash unit was $1,000. The body itself was $1,500. I had a camera equivalent to somebody on the sideline of a football game. I wanted to work for Sports Illustrated. That was like a goal. But then, so that was when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. 23, I'm taking pictures of Manhattan from New Jersey. I'm on the other side of the Hudson River with my buddy. He was like, I know where we could take great pictures of the city. His brother lived in a building across the street from, and he used to go to his brother's house and he would see the cityscape. And it took nighttime. The moon was out. It was fantastic. I wish I had these pictures. I lost them. I lost everything in my addiction. And while we're taking the pictures of the city, he goes, you got to take that camera to the tunnel. And I was like, really? He was like, yeah. And I knew about the Tunnel. The Tunnel was a nightclub in New York City, a famous nightclub. And I knew about it because my friend, one of my Italian friends, whose father was like hooked up in the mob, got his son a part in a movie, because it's all about who you know, right? So his father was connected with one of the families because it was a mostly mafia type neighborhood around here back then. It still is, if it even exists anymore. It's just different now, but it still is. And I remember my friend going off to California. He left that day. We were 13 years old. He went to go. He was in the movie Hook with Dustin Hoffman and Robin Williams. He was one of the Lost Boys. He's still out in California. He's still in Hollywood. He's still doing well. His name is James Matty. You could look him up. He was my best friend. So when I was 18, James came back from Jimmy Boy, we called him. He came back from California, and he got on the guest list at the Tunnel in 1992. 18 years old. He's like, come on, guys, we're going to go to the Tunnel. I got on the guest list. And I went to the Tunnel in 1992. So for those of you who are watching this, know about the Tunnel. I know people that went there in like 97, because that's when I went back with my camera in 97. But if you went there in 92, it wasn't the same as in 97. It was a far, much greater, wild place. There was rooms on the dance floor that didn't exist in 97. It was New York City underground, like in 92. 92, when Michael Alex started his Disco 2000 parties at the Limelight. And I wasn't a big clubber then. I wasn't. I didn't go to clubs at all, but I went to the Tunnel one time. So when my friend 5 years later, when we were taking pictures, said, you got to take that camera to the Tunnel, I was like, yeah, absolutely, let's go. And sure enough, the next weekend, for Saturday night, we went to the Tunnel in 1997. It was in like February. And it wasn't the same. I could see almost immediately that it didn't have the same rooms, and all the themes and the things were different, but it was still a wild place. And I took wild pictures of girls walking around with their shirt off, and the girl dancing in the cage on the dance floor, and that was the beginning of me going to nightclubs. I still hadn't taken a drug yet, because that night my friend went to go hand me an ecstasy, and I said, no, I don't do that, you know. He was like, okay, no problem. So the next week, we went back to the Tunnel. I didn't take my camera this time. I just went to go hang out, and just because I liked the music. I've always liked music. I'm a DJ, right? That's where the whole thing with the music started. I think before that, when I DJ'd in my bedroom in 94, I bought a couple of albums. I bought The Witch Doctor from Armin van Helden, which it was like appealing to me, and like Rosala, Everybody's Free to Feel Good, 1994, if you remember that song, that vocal. And then like hip hop, I had hip hop records. But I had those two club tracks. And so when I went into the Tunnel that night with my camera, I loved the music in 1997. So I went back, and my friend, he goes to give me an ecstasy again. Here, Steve, come on. You got to do it. I said, Mike, please don't ask me again. I don't want to do it. I was afraid of it. I was afraid to take that pill, and if it hit me the wrong way, or if I got like a bad hit, or I went on a bad trip, that I wasn't going to be able to control it. I always like to be in control of everything. I need a haircut. I had to call her up today. So this is my friend my whole life. From like kindergarten. So he knows me more than anyone. And he knew I was insecure, and he knew that I never did the drugs, and he knew I never, like, he's a lawyer today, this guy. He went off to law school and became a lawyer, and he's doing great. He never even became an addict. He just was experimenting with it, and he wanted me to enjoy the night and the club and the experience. So he starts yelling at me in there. He's like, "What's the matter with you?" I said, "I don't want to take it." He's like, "Don't be afraid. Nothing's gonna happen to you. You're gonna have fun. You're gonna enjoy it. Live your life." And I'm like, "Oh man, I don't want to do it." He's like, "Everybody in here's doing it. Everybody. What do you think's gonna happen to you? Live your fucking life." And in that moment, I looked at him, and I thought about that, and I said, "Give it to me." And I ate it. And 20 minutes later, I started to feel it. And it was incredible. Ecstasy. And I remember thinking, wow, all this time I've been missing out on this. Like, I should have done this years ago when it was offered to me, but I was so scared. And I was like, "You were right, man. Could have been living my life this whole time." But I didn't know that it ignited something in me that a fire that I wasn't able to put out for 20 years. I didn't know that 20 years later, I was going to end up on heroin, homeless in the streets of New York. If I did know that, I still wouldn't have taken it. I would have said, "Fuck you. I don't care about living. I am living my life. I got a $10,000 camera. I'm going to be a photographer for Sports Illustrated someday. I don't need that bullshit." Just like now, if somebody offered it to me, I know what's going to happen if I do it because I have the experience. And I would never do that. Because one, I'm not insecure anymore. And two, I love myself too much to put myself in harm's way like that anymore. This chain, this charm, as much as she means to my dad, gone. It'll be sold for a 20 bag. How many times I've done that? I've got everything back. I had a $3,500 MacBook Pro. I sold it for $300 because I was fiending for crack in 2008, 2010 when I relapsed again after being clean for 2 years. Oh my God, what a frigging disaster. So I know what it is to have to lose everything and then get it all back from scratch, from nothing. I can do anything I want. And now I'm in a position. When I was messed up on drugs and I was homeless on the train, I didn't think I can get out of that. Check this out. I did not think I could get out of that situation. I just accepted it. I said, this is what the cards had in store for me. This is my destiny, I guess. And that was it. And every day I just ran with it. It was an act of God that I got out of that situation. It had to have been. If I really think about it. I'd like to think that I did that, but I don't know. I struggled with God and believing in the whole process until I met Lana. She loved Jesus, so that's a whole other story for another time. But anyway, I didn't think I can get clean, and I did. And so now because of that, to be able to sit here now at 3 o'clock in the morning with everything that I've acquired, is pretty remarkable. And so what I'm about to embark on and what I'm about to do is going to be tremendous. It's going to be bigger than anything I've ever done. And I can't sleep because I'm so excited and because I had to I have to submit a set to the thing by June 30th. So I went over the set that I'm going to submit just to make sure it has to meet a certain criteria. It's got to be all house music, and it is. It can't be any talking on the set, and it is none. It's got to be 60 minutes long. If it's any more outside of what they're asking, they won't accept it. So it's got to be perfect. So I'm making sure it's perfect, and it is. I'm going to win this contest. Now I have to make a video, and there's 5 questions. So I've been going over the questions because you only have 2 minutes to make this video. It's got to be a 2-minute video of an introduction with your and you got to send that with a 60-minute set, house music. It can't even be above like 1 decimal. If it's intentional because of effects, they'll accept it. But if it's not intentional, they'll deny it. That's the volume of the set. Uncompressed PCM wave file with a sample rate of 44.1 kilohertz. I know what that is. That's the sample rate of when you're recording. It could be either 16 or 24 bit resolution. That's fine. For 24 bit, it's got to be 96. My battery's going to die. Or 192 kilohertz is accepted. Length between 1 and 2 hours. I didn't see that before. I thought it was 60 minutes, but it's 61 minutes. So whatever. That's between 1 and 2 hours. Upload a single file. Do not cut the mix into tracks. Don't separate the set. Make it one hour long for live recordings. Top tail audio to avoid large sections of silence during transitions. Avoid mixing in generated crowd in generated crowd noise. Although real crowd noise from a venue is fine. It's not from a venue. I did it in my house. True peak levels should not exceed 1 decibel over. Like, because there's 0 and then there's up and over and under. Apply minimal limiting to master bus. That means don't use a limiter, or minimal at best. Gain reduction should not exceed 4 decibels. So if you clip, they're going to deny it. And they'll hear that. They'll know, I guess, when they put it in there to listen. The meter will show. Files that contain significant compression, digital clipping, or unintentional analog distortion will be rejected. So it's got to be perfect. Whatever. I might not win because of that on the first try, but I could submit a mix every month. This is not for Ibiza. This is to go on the Apple Music page, which is a great way to get exposure, especially with the Pete Tong thing. That's going to be the first thing. My mix is going to be on the Apple Music DJ page. My mix, my live 60-minute mix. Then, this is the problem I'm having. Not really, I just have to go over it. Self-interview. It's important for us to know what you're thinking about DJing and what you're thinking about the academy to finalize your submission. The video could be used and shared for promotional purposes. Please answer the following questions in a short 2-minute selfie video. Please repeat the questions in your answer. Example, what is your DJ mission? My DJ mission is... Questions to answer. 1. Brief presentation about yourself, your name, stage name, and your country. Hi, my name is Steven. My DJ name is Stavybo. DJ Stavybo from the United States, right? That's simple. What did you enjoy most about the academy? So far, the opportunity to learn about my idols, right? Pete Tong, the Carl Cox, Nicole Madaba, Adam Beyer. I've always looked up to them since I came in the scene. What's your DJ mission and your biggest dream about DJing? It's the most obvious question. So I'm just gotta get those questions down packed and my answers and get them in a 2-minute video. So because if it's longer than 2 minutes, they won't accept it. So I've been doing that. What's the last question? How do you feel about Pete Tong and the other teachers listening to your mix? It's incredible. What kind of question is that? It's amazing. If they are actually listening to it. How do you feel about the chance to get your name next to the biggest names in the industry? Dream come true. Dream come true stuff. Stuff dreams are made of. Please close the interview with the following sentence. Hi, I'm DJ Stavybo from the United States. Stream my latest mix for Pete Tong's DJ Academy on Apple Music now. I could do it. And then the next thing is I gotta send a 60-minute, not a video, no, a video of me playing for the chance to go to Ibiza. That's got to be a video, and they want to see my presence on, like how I react with the people in this chat and all that stuff, and how I am over the microphone and my stage presence and stuff like that. I was trying to think about things I could do here on this channel. Maybe talk about the scene or interview, like a podcast, interview DJs. Imagine. Set it up on my couch or something where we have coffee and if I can get DJs. My friend Mario, he's got some connections. He took my mix tonight and he gave it to a couple of people. And I think that if I can meet with them, like ultimately, like let's say I play some events or some around the city, or if that opportunity comes to light, I could ask them, hey, would you come do my podcast? Local talent, like local famous people from New York City, like just to throw one name out there, Risa Garcia. Another guy that my friend, a good friend of mine, a new friend of mine, a new relationship I formed with this guy, Chris. Awesome guy. Awesome DJ, awesome producer. he has some connections with like Danny Teneglia's promoter. He told me he thinks that I'm ready, that he'll submit my mix to them, see if I can open for Danny when next time he's in New York. So things like that. And then, it's just going to keep going forward because I've been around long enough. I'm doing the right thing for a long time now. I've worked so hard. I invested so much time, money, and effort into what I'm doing now that I can't sleep. I can't sleep. What am I going to do about work? I don't know. I don't want to be a construction worker anymore. But is it realistic to think that I can be a DJ? I think I'm probably going to have to work. Whatever. I'll do whatever it takes. If I have to work and do it all, I will. But I don't have work tomorrow, thank God. Otherwise, I'd be fucked. Because it's 3:30 in the morning. All right. That's it. Maybe I'll lay down now. I'm so amped up. It's crazy. I watched a crazy movie. My friend Rick told me about it. Pete Tong made it back in the 90s. It's based on a true story. It's about a guy who became a DJ. He blew up. He got famous. He started doing a lot of drugs. And he started to go deaf. And after so much time, he went completely deaf. And he lost everything. He couldn't DJ anymore. And when he was down and out with nothing, like homeless, he lost everything. Guy was homeless, sleeping on the floor, doing drugs. Hair was all disheveled, long beard. You couldn't even recognize him. In his worst state, he figured out how to hear. You know how the beat, boom, 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 of the track, it vibrates and you could feel it. So if we couldn't hear, if I'm deaf, but I'm coming to a room with a loud, or if I go into a club, I'll feel the boom, boom, boom. I'll feel the frequency. And he was able to learn how to DJ again just with the feeling. He got everything back. He blew back up. And he stopped doing drugs, and it was a happy ending. I wonder who that was, because it was a fictional name in the movie, but it was based on a true story. If I ever get to talk to Pete Tong, especially now doing the Academy thing, I'm going to ask him who that DJ was about. Who the story was based on. The name of the movie is called... I don't remember. Next time I come back, I'll say it. But it was a great movie. It was a sick movie. It was like whacked out wild. At first, it was almost hard to watch. But if you could just get through the bad parts, because it's very graphic, it's a really good story. It's a happy ending. All right. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good night.